Good morning and welcome to the Battle Creek Area Chamber of Commerce's Eye Opener program. We are here today in our October board meeting, Eye Opener. My name is Kara Beer and I'm the president of the Battle Creek Area Chamber of Commerce. We are very fortunate today to have the United States Chamber of Commerce here today to give us a little bit of an update on what is going on and what we need to be doing as a community to really rally around and help support the mission of pro-business in a pro-business climate. And so we are going to hear from them here shortly. But first off, we like to say welcome to all of our members who have joined us and jumped on today. We are recording today, so this will be available through our channels, such as our YouTube channel. We also post this back out to our Facebook. We also post it out to other social media platforms. If you are interested in learning more, please check us out. Just a couple little things before we go to do our introductions. We are going to have you say your name, hang on one second. Can you mute? Okay, thank you. All right, so we're getting messages from people wanting the link for today. So we're gonna get that going for a second. All right, so you're gonna do your name, your organization, and what is your favorite fall time drink? Okay, so we're gonna start with Susan Odell.
How did I know you were gonna do that?
You're the first one on my screen.
Hi, my name is Susan Odell Shilton, and I am with Doherty Healthcare Services. For those of you who don't know, that's Heritage Assisted Living and Reflections Memory Care on Helmer Road. And my favorite fall drink, we actually have a cider press and apple trees on our property. So we go and pick apples and make cider with the grandkids.
Very cool.
So yeah, right. It's a fun time.
That's perfect. John Gata.
Good morning. My name's John Gata. I am a Kellogg retiree and a chamber board member. And I also like apple cider in the fall, although in the evenings you can add a little bourbon to it to spice it up.
Perfect. All right, we've got Greg Moore.
Good morning, Greg Moore, Community Affairs Manager for Consumers Energy, and I'll make it the trifecta, apple cider.
Perfect. All right, TR Shaw, thank you. I just sent you a link.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a moment of panic trying to find it. So thanks. I'm TR Shaw, Shaw Communication, a longtime chamber member, and sounds like you're talking about cider. Yeah, I guess I like it.
What's your fall time drink? What's your favorite fall time drink?
Oh yeah, well, probably cider. That's what we're talking about.
All right.
Pretty much anything else.
There you go. All right, Al Shiflett.
Good morning, Al Shiflett, Director for Community Engagement at Grand Valley State University Battle Creek Regional Outreach Center. Got to go with cider, but this morning Cafe Rica plug has a great autumn chai, so I'm really enjoying that this morning.
Great. All right, Teresa Allen.
Good morning, Teresa Allen with Charitable Union, and I'm a pumpkin spice girl. Sorry, guys.
Perfect. And congratulations to Charitable Union on 134 years. What a great honor. And thank you for all the stuff that you do for our community.
Thank you.
All right, Steve Frisbee. You're muted.
Oops. Steve Frisbee, Life Care Ambulance and County Commission.
You were that person today.
Add a little, yeah, I'm that person. Add a little hot damn to the cider and it's really good.
Okay. All right, Jim Hodsma.
Good morning, Jim Hotsma, Michigan State House. I guess in autumn, I live large and have regular coffee rather than decaf coffee. So that's my favorite autumn drink.
Living on the edge, Jim.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, we've got Denise Wilkie.
Denise Wilkie with Lighthouse Title, and I'm a chamber ambassador, and I love cider.
Great. All right, Alicia Marvin.
If I can get my video going here. Maybe. I don't know if it's working today.
Seems
Nope.
temperamental.
Apparently it's not going to work. So we'll just turn back off to my beautiful picture there. Alicia Marvin with Firekeepers Casino Hotel. My favorite fall drink, it used to be pumpkin spice latte, but my normal go-to, what I got today from Gapi, is Neapolitan latte. I do extra flavor because I don't like the taste of coffee.
All right, perfect. Leah Ortiz.
Good morning, Leah Ortiz, the ARC of Calhoun County and Chamber Board member. And my favorite fall drink is this drink I have all year round, which is a good Pinot Noir.
That is a perfect fall drink. All right, Gary Tompkins.
Hey, good morning, folks. My camera seems to be in the same thing. County Board of Commissioners representing that little apple cider with a little additive, if you will, would be is always a nice thing on a cold night. So thank you. Thank you. Great to be with you folks.
Thank you. Tammy Morgan, we're doing name, organization, business, and your favorite fall drink.
Good morning. My name's Tammy Morgan. I'm from Western Michigan University. And I would probably say hot chocolate with some rum chata.
Perfect. All right, Billy Beers.
Good morning, Billy Beers with the Battle Creek Area Chamber of Commerce, and I will have to agree with the majority on cider.
Great. Beth Pong.
Beth Pong, Battle Creek Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a cider fan.
All right, so my name is Kara Beer. I'm president of the Battle Creek Area Chamber of Commerce. As I mentioned, my favorite fall drink, I have two. One is I love Down from Cafe Rica, so I'm going to give a plug again, like Al did. But they have an apple pie latte, which is delicious. So it's got that spice. But the chai is also really good. But that one is good. And then my favorite fall drink would probably be Sam Adams Oktoberfest. So I do love cider, but I kind of overdid it in college at CMU with warm apple cider and Captain Morgan. So
Fire up chips.
Woo-hoo! All right. So Ryan, we are going to do an introduction of you here in just a moment. So I'm going to wait to do yours. So bear with me. I know you're dying to tell us what your favorite fall drink is. But we are going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what's going on this week for the chamber and our community. We are scheduled to do Fall into the Arts this Friday. So we are scheduled to do from 3 to 9 in our downtown. It is an outdoor event. So please be watching because we may have to do an alternate date because it is scheduled to rain. And so we want to make sure that we have everybody taken care of in our downtown. Our vendors, they're not going to want to bring art out in the rain. And so we are working on a date right now in case it's over 60% chance of rain. And I don't want to do that because I just don't think that that's fair to artists. As well as our guests that would be coming out and about. So again, Fall into the Arts scheduled from 3 to 9 for this Friday, may be rescheduled. So be looking for that. Also, if you have not seen any of our ribbon cuttings lately or any of our, we just on Friday did a tour of the Breeze Farm, which is with Trucenta, which for those of you who don't know is right here in Battle Creek, right there on Columbia Avenue. It is a marijuana farm, but we did go and take a look at the farm and really get into lots of detail on how that actually happens and what we're producing here locally at one of our marijuana shops that is a member of the chamber. We also have lots of different exciting things on our social media. So if you want to go on and actually check those out, you can do so at our Battle Creek Chamber Facebook page. It's also on our LinkedIn. It's also on our YouTube channel. All of those pieces can be found when we send out Tuesday Tidbit later. You can find them there. Please go on, register, make sure that you're getting our emails. There's lots of information in there as well. We just want to make sure that you guys are in the know of what's happening here in the community. Also, October 1 started the new fiscal year for the Chamber of Commerce. So you're going to see a lot of new things coming out, new programming. You know, we are still recovering from the pandemic in regards to what does the chamber look like. Events are definitely one of those things that we are really gonna probably take a little bit of a slower approach to. We want to make sure that everybody is safe, but also so many guidelines of what they have going on for us, what we need to make sure that everybody stays safe. So be watching, because we will have some in-person events coming up here shortly, but we just really want to make sure that everybody stays safe. But we still are going to continue to give you as much information as we possibly can and connect you to the resources here in our community. I do see that we did have a joiner come on, so I want to make sure that I have an opportunity for her to do an introduction. Linda, we are actually doing name, organization, and your favorite fall time drink.
Hello, everybody. I was having a little computer issues this morning. So I'm Linda Freibler. I'm from the Calhoun County Visitors Bureau. And what was the questions?
What is your favorite fall time drink?
I'm going to say a pumpkin spice latte.
Perfect. All right, we got, I think this is the first time ever that pumpkin spice latte has not won out in this kind of a setting. Apple cider was definitely the winner of this poll that we just did. So I think that's pretty awesome. We've got some great fall time activities and some great fall time drinks to think about. So I'm going to turn this over to Ryan Gleason. He is one of our representatives in our regional office, which is based out of Chicago. Ryan has been with the U.S. Chamber for a number of years and is newer in this role. I think you got it right before COVID, right, Ryan?
I did, correct.
All right. And so our regional office right here in Chicago is a great resource for us. They have a pulse on what's going on in DC. They're constantly in contact with what we need to know. But there's a lot going on right now, not only in our state government, but also federally. And it all impacts how we as a community operate in business. And so I think it's really important to give the opportunity for the U.S. Chamber to really give us a great talk about what is going on and what we could be doing as a community to help the fight for a pro-business climate, but also really looking at opportunities for us to engage in different ways that we've ever done. So Ryan, my first questions to you before you get going into our presentation would be, what is the name, your organization, and your favorite fall time drink?
Well, thanks, Kara. It's good to be with you in the Battle Creek area chamber. Just so your members understand and to put in perspective, I work for the U.S. Chamber, as Kara mentioned. I'm working out of Chicago. We cover the states of Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky. But the Battle Creek area chamber is an accredited chamber. We appreciate your partnership. You're a 5-star chamber, and that is really held at the highest regard. As regard to my favorite drink, it has to be apple cider, but I am surprised to hear that there weren't enough people saying they don't like pumpkin spice lattes. So what the state of play right now in Washington is pretty unique. I'm sure a number of you on the call know what's on the forefront right now, and that's infrastructure and President Biden's reconciliation plan. Congress is out this week. I'm sure you all saw last week the Senate had passed a temporary debt ceiling raise until December 3rd. That would have avoided our first ever default. is the U.S. government. So we at the chamber are always wanting to keep the government open, because if government isn't open, that affects businesses from every size and sector across our nation. But meanwhile, there's a couple of other things other than infrastructure and reconciliation that are at the forefront. I'm sure you all saw that a number of weeks ago, President Biden had put out an executive order regarding vaccinations. This was a pretty difficult decision. We understand for a number of businesses, particularly for those with over 100 employees, to either have their employees be vaccinated or to be tested once a week. We didn't take a position on this because as a result of it being an executive order, this was something that we felt like as a chamber, we want to see everyone get vaccinated, and we have as many resources available to make sure that businesses have the resources available in order to fulfill this mandate. But particularly as it relates to the infrastructure and reconciliation plan, I'll have a couple of slides to share that could be, I don't know if it's unavailable for me to share with you, Kara.
I just opened it up. You should be able to share.
Got it. So this might get a little technical, and if it is, I'm happy to take any questions. So where are we at right now? So obviously in the state of Congress, things are very tight. In the House of Representatives, there's about an 8-seat advantage for Democrats, and there is Senate that's split 50-50. And so in the event that there's a tie vote, you would have Vice President Kamala Harris splitting the vote. But something that's on the forefront, and I'm hearing from a number of businesses, particularly just individuals, is the government deficit. We have seen since the beginning of the pandemic, really the government deficit kind of skyrocket. And so that's something that we're keeping an eye on, but there's a lot of money still available through COVID spending. And so where are we at right now? To kind of put it into a historical perspective, as you can see, in 2010, after Barack Obama was elected, you had a solid majority in the House, a solid majority in the Senate for Democrats. The Affordable Care Act was passed, as I'm sure you recall. And then in 2017, when President Trump was elected, we had the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. This was a major priority for the chamber that lowered the corporate tax rate from 35 to 21%. And so now with President Biden in office, we see a slimmer majority in the House, a split Senate. And so there could be opportunity there, and that's what we're seeing today. So for the infrastructure and reconciliation bill, there's two different ways to pass it. There's the bipartisan way that we saw that passed with infrastructure in August. The Senate passed the hard infrastructure bill, the 1.2 infrastructure bill for 69 to 31. You really don't see that all that often in Washington with a bipartisan vote, but however, as it relates to the reconciliation, the budget bill, that is going to go through a budget reconciliation process. And so all you would need is 50 senators to pass it. And then in the event that it's a tie, you would have the vice president voting on it as well. And so budget reconciliation, I won't go into the nitty and gritty, but it was established in 1974, and the purpose is to kind of tie a budget proposal with other sort of needs as well in order to pass Congress. There are some limitations that are to it as well, as you can see, but really historically what has happened through this past spring or earlier this last winter was the American Rescue Plan. That was the last key piece of legislation that passed through Congress as it related to COVID, including more money for the Paycheck Protection Program through EIDL loans. But unfortunately, we saw through this an extension of the unemployment benefits, which extended through the end of last September. A number of states across the country ended it quite early. And so as a result of that, we had saw a worker shortage issue. We're seeing it in Michigan, we're seeing it across the country. Unfortunately, we saw an unfortunate jobs number that came out this past Friday. While the unemployment rate dropped into the mid 4%, we only saw a growth of about 194,000 jobs, much slower than we thought. And that's as a result of a lot of people leaving the workforce. And so that's something that we're trying to work at the chamber. But first and foremost, we have to look at where we're at today and what's at the table. And so I mentioned the president signed the American Rescue Plan back in March. We saw this at the chamber for the most part, not everything that we wanted, but things that were critical in keeping businesses from small to medium to large sized businesses open across the country. But what's at the table today? And so as I had mentioned, there's the bipartisan infrastructure program that passed in the Senate again by a 69 to a 30% bipartisan vote. So the House is under consideration for it. Kara mentioned, what can you be doing as members of the chamber? Well, Peter Meyer, who is a great friend of business, and we're great to have him in Congress working in Washington on behalf of businesses. We want to make sure that we can get him to become a yes vote for this bipartisan proposal. Now, the question is today, the House a few weeks ago had a chance to vote for the bipartisan proposal as a standalone bill. Unfortunately, they really took us to the 11th hour, and then unfortunately, they did not have the votes in order to pass it. Both House moderate Democrats and House progressives were really trying to decide whether or not to tie it into this Build Back Better Act, which is a $3.5 trillion proposal that, quite frankly, is going to ruin the tax cuts that we had fought for a couple of years ago, and really is going to create taxes on all of the American people, not only for corporations, for small businesses. I mean, we are seeing today inflation rising to a record degree. But the biggest issue that is eventually going to happen is you go to the grocery store, you're going to see taxes on plastics, simple things that are going to affect not only small businesses, but American families. And so to kind of put it in perspective of this whole year, it's been a crazy year. So we had a new Congress that came in at the very beginning of the year, and then we had the budget reconciliation, and then eventually the bipartisan infrastructure passed in August. And so the way that this is paid for, a lot of people ask is, you know, are there going to be taxes raised with regard to the infrastructure plan? Not the case. Half of that is through the Highway Trust Fund, which is a regularly funded plan that is going to expire at the end of the month. The rest of it is spent through COVID money, money that had not been allocated, that had been spent, however, through the various programs that have been passed over the past 18 months. As I had mentioned, kind of the biggest issue in Washington was the debt ceiling. So as I had said, the Senate had passed the debt ceiling extension through December 3rd. The House will come back next week, and hopefully we can get that through to avoid a government shutdown. But we at the chamber, again, want to see the government open and functioning in order to continue to get these other programs passed as well. And so the American Rescue Plan, which was enacted this past March, there was a number of certain things that had happened with it as well, but particularly the biggest thing was the child tax credit. The president wants to see this enacted through the reconciliation plan. We're hopeful that a number of these other sort of programs could be put through. But however, the cost for the American people, the cost for American businesses are really not realistic in order to keep businesses open. We've seen small businesses throughout the pandemic kind of struggle mightily. Many have closed, and we don't think that increasing taxes on businesses at this point in time would be opportunistic. So to put it in perspective, there's two different plans here that kind of mold into one. It's the American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan. Now, we at the Chamber, we have been advocating to get an infrastructure plan for years and years and years. This has been our biggest priority after getting through a number of COVID relief packages. You know, they talk about infrastructure in Washington. I mean, it's the greatest plan that really never gets done. So we are in favor of infrastructure, hard infrastructure, water, electric, broadband, clean energy. You know, broadband, rural broadband in particular, has been a huge issue, particularly through the pandemic. This has to be at least my 200th Zoom call or Teams meeting call. And one of the biggest concerns that I have heard over the past year and a half is particularly as students are learning from home and individuals are learning from home, struggles of families having to go to, if they don't have the broadband necessary, going to, let's say, a McDonald's parking lot or a Starbucks parking lot in order to get the internet that they need necessary. But as it relates to the American Families Plan, listen, we're all in favor of education, training, healthcare, nutritionists, assistants, but these things should not be tied to something that had passed in the Senate in a bipartisan fashion, particularly as it relates to increasing taxes. So specifically with regard to the $1.1 trillion infrastructure plan, it would add to the federal budget, but not to the degree that has been described through other sort of networks. We think this can be paid over time, much like purchasing a house. There would be certain money put down and then eventually would be paid for over a certain period of time. So for the Build Back Better Act, this was nearly a 2,500 page bill. The amount of tax increases, particularly as it relates to small businesses, while they are not taxed at the corporate tax rate, they are paid at the individual rate. And so you will see a number of increases there as well. Particularly, something that this bill includes is drug prices increases. As it relates to the federal government having drug prices being mandated, this is something that would be catastrophic for individuals, for our pharmacies, and for those paying at the actual leave. So there's a number of things going on, particularly as it relates to the filibuster, a number of different questions. And so the filibuster it kind of keeps that bipartisan fashion. As we've seen in the Senate, we hope that the House passes the infrastructure bill as it is. But we have two key members in the Senate, Kristen Sinema from Arizona, Joe Manchin from West Virginia, that have been stalwarts of Democrats that have been arguing to keep the filibuster in place, and we want to continue to push them as well. And so for the Build Back Better Act, it's going through the House Ways and Means Committee. Unfortunately, Congressman Myers does not sit on that committee. But we have a number of other members in Michigan that are key to that as well, including your member to your Southwest and Fred Upton. So President Biden originally in his original proposal had wanted to increase the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. They're now sitting at 26.5%. This would make us less competitive with countries across the world. It would make us have the third highest tax rate across the world, which we really could not see as being necessary as we move forward with business. Additionally, for the highest income individuals, the joint filers, we would raise from 36 to 39.5%, roughly 40%. A number of businesses, particularly as it relates to small businesses, would be paying this rate. The estate tax increase would be raised to the point of where we had lowered them with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and retirement and savings. We would see a number of increases there as well. Additionally, as I mentioned, a big key proponent of the budget reconciliation plan is the child tax credit. And we're seeing a number of House progressives that are fighting for it. This is a key proponent for them in order to make sure that we tie both the infrastructure and the reconciliation plan. Again, we at the Chamber think a number of these proposals are good proposals. They just should not be tied together. They should be one-off with each other. So at the end of the day, what we think is going to end up happening is that we'll see the corporate tax rate for a final resolution raised from 21 to 25%. We still think that the tax at the top rate will be raised to closely 40%. And then we'll see a number of state individual taxes raised as well from $10,000 to $20,000. And so what Kara mentioned, what can you do? And so we're seeing at the Chamber is we want to work with a number of our small businesses to work with members of Congress, urging members like Peter Meyer, who is against reconciliation. He sees quite an issue with the amount of government deficit happening, the amount of government spending happening. But he is one of the individuals that we are targeting specifically in order to get this infrastructure plan done. This is a once in a generation plan to happen. And we think now is the time for it to happen. And hopefully when Congress comes back next week, we can see a vote for it, hopefully by the end of October. And with that, Kara, I'll kick it back to you and for any questions that any of your members may have.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Ryan, for coming in and the slides and putting it and breaking it down for us. That is really, really helpful. I know a lot of folks have had lots of questions in regards to the infrastructure bill. One specifically, a thing that we're talking about here locally in Calhoun County is the fact that we've been doing a broadband study. And so we have found over the last year and a half or 2 years that we do not have accessibility or access or affordable broadband for students. And I know we have a number of our board members on our school board members that are on today's calls that have been dealing with this issue since the beginning. Just kind of opening it up a little bit in regards to that infrastructure bill, what questions does the group have of Ryan in regards to infrastructure? It doesn't have to be on broadband. I just bring up the point that, that is one way that we are looking at this bill as a benefit to our community, because in the state of Michigan, the amount of money that comes to us for infrastructure, especially broadband. All right, crickets.
Well, I'm willing to hop in. So, a decade ago, no one would have really ever thought of thinking as broadband as infrastructure, but the case and matter is it is a point of infrastructure today. And, as I alluded to, I know that Calhoun County has a number of rural areas where people are struggling with getting the internet access necessary. This has become a critical point for the chamber, especially over the past couple of years as it related to the pandemic. That's why we need to get this infrastructure package passed. It's really, as I had mentioned, a once in a lifetime opportunity where we have not seen something of this size and nature, where it could benefit communities such as yours. And so again, it's urging members like Congressman Meyer reaching out to members across the state like Congressman Upton in order to get it passed.
I will tell you that we have been sending out the sign-on letters to the membership for folks to go ahead and do that. It's really easy. You can get on and you can send the link, and you can put your information in there, and the letter gets sent right away. And it has great highlighted points. So if you are interested in learning more of how you can do that, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to send you that link as well. Looks like Steve Frisbee has a question.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. We do ask you to fill out that survey. We have extended it through the end of the month. Carrie, maybe you can put that into the comment box, the link to it. But we look at it as more than school opportunities. I think most of our county board is very supportive of it because of the options that it has for business as well. And most of us forget about the farming community as a business. And it's one of our largest business communities in Calhoun County. And today's farming requires internet access. So other small businesses in rural settings, things like that. The only thing I would caution is that the ARPA funding has dollars or use available for broadband as well. So to pass it in another bill, we just keep piling on the debt. I think most of us are supportive of hard infrastructure, as you labeled it correctly. Most of us are against all of the frivolous spending that goes along with it. And if we could clean that up in Congress, that'd be nice. I don't know that that's anybody's task today that's going to fix it, but it certainly would make life a lot better when we start passing bills in Congress.
Well, thanks, Steve. And certainly at the chamber, we are recognizing the agricultural community as well. Again, we are with you. There is a lot of frivolous spending that is going on. The deficit is exploding. But as it relates to the hard infrastructure bill, as you put it, the money has already been spent for it. Again, half of it is already through what's already spent every single year through the Highway Trust Fund. But then on top of that, the other monies that are spent are excessive spending or excessive spent through the pandemic. This is a great opportunity to get something done. And unfortunately, in Washington, what we're seeing right now is two different factions of how things should be spent or how much it should be spent, neither of which happen to positively impact businesses as it relates to increasing in tax spending.
Are there other questions in regards to any of the topics that we talked about? I know we talked about the infrastructure bill, but some of the other things that are going on, do you guys have questions that we might be able to utilize the U.S. Chamber to answer some of those questions? More specifically, if you have questions on the reconciliation bill, is there anything that folks want to learn about, childcare or a talent pipeline that's going on at the U.S. Chamber? Any of those types of things?
Well, I'll just jump on again, Kara. The other issue that we're seeing at the chamber, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the workforce shortage. We're seeing a number of companies having a difficult time bringing employees back while the federal unemployment benefit has ended. We're still seeing the case today where businesses are having a difficult time reopening work, and we're trying to navigate. We're trying to hear from you. We're trying to hear from your members and what way possible that is best to bring back employees. So for any of the employers on the call, I'd be happy to hear any sort of suggestions that you may have.
Anybody want to talk about what they have going on in regards to talent development and recruitment? Well, there's quite a bit going on here locally in regards to talent recruitment. I know with our Michigan Works, we just had our presentation last month with Michigan Works Southwest, looking at what kinds of things that we're doing. And everybody is in the same boat, like you said, nationally, trying to figure out how are we going to navigate this and make this impactful for our community. And the folks at Michigan Works have said they have looked at all different aspects of it. From second chances, we're going to be doing an expungement fair, so that will help in regards to getting folks that may have a criminal record that of certain different crimes. They're going to be bringing that on. They have been doing it in other communities. They are looking at doing it here locally. We have a big push in regards to really looking at the disabilities of how do we look at folks with disabilities and how do we get them to work, looking at youth workers, looking at entrepreneurship, looking at really opening up the panel in regards to second career choices and what kinds of training needs to happen. Where do we need to plug folks into, working with our community colleges to make sure that they're utilizing the Regional Manufacturing Technology Center, just a gamut of different things going on here locally. But I think that one of the things that has not been talked about, Ryan, in our discussion of talent pipeline, it is really the loss of population and how that is playing a role in it, and as well as the Wall Street Journal article talking about the Great Resignation. Those are things that that article has made its way through the country, and people are relating to that. If you have not read that, I think that it is an article that you want to read, because I think that it kind of sums up a lot of different things that we've been talking about. Folks are really looking at that balance and where do we move forward, and what kinds of second careers they may have. And some are just flat out retiring early. So really looking at all the different angles that we may have. You know, veterans has always been a big push. It's very popular here in our area. We have a number of our top veteran organizations in the state, employers up for veterans on the call today. Just really looking at it as another avenue, and where do we go? It's just, there's so much going on in talent pipeline, but I think the biggest thing that we're missing is that we have to have people to put people into place, not just great pipelines of how to get them there. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I can certainly appreciate that. Again, calling you from Chicago, Illinois, I certainly know about people leaving the state. You know, a number of issues as well that it relates to it is affordable housing. You know, we're seeing a difficult time where communities are being willing to attract individuals to work because they do not have the affordable housing necessary. That's something on the forefront of the U.S. Chamber. But there are just so many moving pieces as it relates to the talent pipeline. We have a great foundation that encourages businesses to look into, to attract employees for different ways and avenues to look into. If any of your members are interested in that, I'm happy to connect them with it. But you're exactly right. I mean, there are a lot of people that are just quite frankly exiting the workforce. As I mentioned, the jobs numbers that came out this past Friday, while the unemployment rate ticked down, it did, but that's as a result of a number of people leaving the workforce. And so, you know, you particularly as an advocate for businesses in your community have to figure out ways that we can attract people to stay in the workforce or to perhaps return to the workforce. And that's something that we're focused at the chamber as well.
Great. Are there any more questions that we can have Ryan answer for us today?
This is Linda Freibler. Just to add to that, in addition to you know, people leaving the workforce or potentially retiring, I mean, those people aren't volunteering for our events throughout the state. So it's really affecting kind of the hospitality industry on two levels. One, people aren't getting kind of that part-time job that maybe a retiree used to do. So things like the zoo was affected this summer because those seniors didn't come back to those jobs. And then secondly, people that might have volunteered previously may have picked up a new job, or again, just because of COVID are still hesitant to work an event. So it's been difficult for the hospitality industry to put on those big events that everybody wanted to go to this summer. And the ones that did happen were really, you know, full of people too. I don't have a solution to that, but I mean, that's definitely going on.
That's a really great point, Linda. So from my perspective, and something that I've been relaying to the chamber, is I've heard a number of these comments, particularly as it relates to the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. The hospitality industry has taken a very large hit, but I think fortunately businesses, as it relates to the hospitality industry, are becoming more innovative in attracting people. But unfortunately, as a result of the pandemic, it has been difficult, but it's something that we at the chamber are keeping an eye on and wanting to work with.
Great, thank you. Well, with that being said, and no more questions, I'm gonna say thank you so much, Ryan, for being here today and giving us an update and what's coming forward with Washington, DC, and things that we should be looking at. Any final thoughts that you may have for us?
I would just say it's going to be a large push throughout the rest of the year. Again, we want to get this infrastructure bill passed because when the calendar turns and hopefully we get more and more Americans vaccinated, it's going to become an election year. We're keeping an eye on what's going on with Michigan. I don't believe that your congressional maps have been drawn yet, but that's going to be a key thing for us to consider. And so as you and your members start seeing or hearing things as it relates to the elections next year, the midterms will be quite an interesting time as a result of the congressional maps. We would love to hear it. But again, if any of your members on the call today have questions regarding vaccines, and I'm not quite the expert on it at all, they can go ahead and email vaccines@uschamber.com. But I appreciate the time with being with you all this morning, and then hopefully next time it is actually in person.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for being here today. Greatly appreciate all of your time and your generosity that you have done over the years with the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to the U.S. Chamber and to you, Ryan, for stepping in and doing this. I will see your team next week. I think it is next week at our Michigan Chamber convention that we have going on in person. So we're excited about that, but really excited that you guys were able to join us today. And thank you to all of you. Hopefully you guys get some of those great fall drinks here coming up, and we will hear from you soon. So thank you all for being here today.
Take care.